Welcome to another episode of the Unpopular View. I'm here in one of my favourite places in the entire world. That's right, a shop that sells food. Now I like food, and I like that there are a dozen shops within walking distance from my house where I can buy food, good food, and it's cheap too. But where does it come from? Most of it comes from somewhere like this. I'm standing on irrigated pasture just 10 k's out of Shepparton. Irrigated? Not irrigated. Irrigated pasture. Not irrigated. Notice the difference? The farmers certainly do. According to the Murray-Darling Basin Commission, just 0.5% of farmland in this region is irrigated, but that 0.5% produces 25% of the gross value. If you think your garden needs water, how much more do these guys need the stuff? It's a simple progression. When we give our food growers more water, they give us more, better quality and cheaper food. In fact, in an ideal season, our food growers provide the platform for a multi-billion-dollar export industry. But we haven't had an ideal season in a very long time. See, the water for many of our food growers comes from Lake Eildon. Lake Eildon. There is water here somewhere. I mean, why else would they call it a lake? Well, I found it, but there's not much there. Just 12%. Which is so little that for the last 10 years our food growers supplied by Eildon have received just a fraction of their water right. This year, for instance, growers are being allocated 35% of their water right, which means more of this and less of this. Incredibly, our food growers have to pay for their entire water right, even when they only get a fraction of it. Which is a lot like paying for this and being given this. Is it any wonder so many farming families are being forced off the land? But finally, the government has stepped in and introduced a plan that will save us all. You see, every year hundreds of gigalitres of water is lost in transit, right here in these irrigation channels. Most of it is lost to evaporation or seeps into the ground. But upgrades to these irrigation channels will mean less water is lost, which provides water savings and means more water gets to our food. It's a clever plan. But here's the really clever bit. They're not going to give the saved water to our food growers, the people who spent years paying for water they haven't got. Oh no. No, they're going to send 1/3 of the water down our rivers as environmental flows, fair enough. But they're sending another third of the water through Brumby's north-south pipeline down to Melbourne, and just 1/3 of the water will be given to our farmers. So let me get this straight. They've spent 10 years paying for water they haven't got, and the second the government thinks it's saved some, it pipes it to Melbourne? Oh yes, even the farmers think it's clever. Grow! 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 That's not growing. Mum! Let me make this perfectly clear. Premier Brumby's north-south pipeline effectively takes water out of Lake Eildon and pumps it to Melbourne. What water? There isn't even enough here for our farmers. On the one hand, they tell the farmers that water is scarce, so you can only have 35% of your allocation. But on the other hand, they're telling us that there's so much water here that they can send some of it on down to Melbourne. You can't have it both ways. Hang on, Topher, I hear you say. Melbourne needs water too. Well, yes, indeed, we do need more water. And of course, the clever place to get that water from is empty lakes and dry farms. But we could, for instance, build a dam on the Mitchell River. That would cost less than twice the pipeline, but would yield more than 5 times the water. Or what about a diverting wall to catch floodwater on the Aberfeldy River? That was supposed to be built 40 years ago along with the Thompson Dam. And there are many other options too, including the use of stormwater, groundwater and even recycled water. Don't laugh. If you've been to London or Singapore lately, you've probably drank recycled water without even knowing it. Hasn't killed you yet, has it? And what about water tanks? Well, Tim Holding, our very clever Minister for Water, said of household water tanks that they are, quote, of limited use because they tend to collect the most water in winter when it's needed least. You know, I always sort of thought that was the idea with water tanks. Better still, water from any of these other projects would be new water coming into the system, not existing water being taken from someone else. This pipeline, it's robbing Peter to pay Paul, or should I say, robbing farmers to pay voters. But here's the killer. As the drought has deepened in the last 10 years, there's been less and less water to run through these channels, which means that there's been less and less water being lost, which means that the irrigation upgrades have less and less water that they can save. Hundreds of millions of dollars of upgrades, and there's no water there to save. Water here is so scarce that the government has seemingly no hope of sending the predicted flows down to Melbourne. They won't even tell us what the predicted flows are for 2010, 2011 or 2012. It's a Soviet-style secret that the people don't need to know. At this rate, they'll be pumping dust. But wait, it gets even cleverer. The Victorian Labor Party won the last election on the back of a no pipeline promise. That's right, they swore hand on heart that they would not pump water over the divide. So what's changed? Well, the leadership has changed. We voted for Bracks, but now we've got Brumby. Now, I understand that leadership struggles are par for the course in politics, but you'd think that our unelected Premier Brumby would have the decency to pursue elected policies. To pursue the policies of the party that we voted for. Policies like, that's right. No pipeline. Let me summarise. We have an unelected Premier building a pipeline we voted against, which takes water from people who don't have any and sends it to a city that has other ways of getting more water cheaper. Clever. But if it's so clearly such a bad idea, why are they building it? Why do the current Labor leadership so passionately support such a stupid pipe? And why the mad rush to finish it by early next year? Why would the current government need water flowing down this pipe by early next year? Why? Because there's an election late next year. And Brumby's never won one of those before. I can hear it now, crowing about how his pipeline has saved Melbourne. Unfortunately, that is an election winner. Never mind that the pipeline cost us a fortune and gives us a dribble. Never mind that the water is coming from people who've gone without for a decade. Never mind that we could have got more water cheaper from elsewhere. No, all that matters is that this pipeline flows before the next election. Now that is clever. Brumby, stop it. Just stop it. I'm calling your bluff. Make some phone calls, cancel these contracts and stop building the biggest white elephant this state has ever seen. Everyone besides you knows that a pipeline can't pump water that isn't there. You want to win the next election? Then get some real water policies, sensible ones that bring new water into the system, and cancel this pipeline. Why would we vote for a man who can't honour the promises of his own party from the last election? Why would we vote for a man so clever that he chooses this over all of the available alternatives? John Brumby and Tim Holding, you will be remembered for this pipeline, but not the way you'd like to be. My name's Topher, and that is my unpopular view. Oh, I didn't mean clever. When I said clever, I meant stupid. Yeah. Really, really stupid. Yeah.